We are less than a month away from seeing the Trojans back on the field for spring practice. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, tracking USC with Matt Lowry from Conquest Chronicles from SB Nation. So please join him and the rest of the staff covering USC athletics. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, thanks. How about yourself, Mark?
I'm good. I'm trying to get to as many teams as possible. We're breaking down positional units team by team, and I'm going crazy scheduling guys like yourself all day, just about every day. So this is what we're doing this time of year. Before we talk quarterbacks, we'll dive into this recruiting situation. USC with a rather disappointing finish to the 2020 class at, I believe, 10th in the Pac-12 and somewhere in the 52 range in the nation. And that has to get better, and it has been extremely good during Clay Helton's run, except for the 2020 class. So can you bring USC fans any good news for 2021?
Well, they've offered, they've made a bunch of offers to a lot of guys, a lot of 4- and 5-star recruits. But I think the biggest news so far has been the hiring of Donte Williams. For a lot of people who are not familiar with him, Donte Williams was the cornerbacks coach for the Oregon Ducks. Also, if you're into recruiter rankings and stuff like that, he is rated as the top recruiter in the Pac-12. The last 2 years, he's been number 1 and number 5, respectively, for Oregon. Played a huge role in Justin Flo going to Oregon, as well as Chris Hudson, the 4-star wide receiver out of St. John Bosco. He played a huge role into him going to Oregon as well. But from what I've been seeing that's been floating around Twitter a lot, was that a lot of recruits are now looking at USC differently because of Donte Williams. And we say that in a positive way. It's shaping up very well for 2021 and possibly 2022 as well.
Do we have any idea why this guy has the secret sauce? What makes him so good?
Well, he knows California very well. He was the top recruit when he was at San Jose State a few years ago. He was the number 1 recruiter in the Mountain West, and got San Jose State a pretty good recruiting class. Now, mind you, San Jose State as of late has not been all that great, but he knows California very well. He has a connection with players. Even when he was at Nebraska and at Arizona, he brought a lot of good California talent. And that's what USC is missing. USC has been missing out on blue chip in-state recruits, like we've talked about in the past. And that and for whatever reason, he just relates to these kids very well. He builds a good relationship with these kids to the point where it's like, yeah, I want to go play for you. So for USC to pick him up is very important. It's very huge for them, especially if they want to get back in the recruiting ranks, to get back to the top of the Pac-12 recruiting.
Yeah, people may forget that Clay Helton brought in 2 top 5 recruiting classes and another one in the top 20. And it's understandable that with the addition of Donte Williams, that USC would then try to capitalize on that momentum and that name recognition to then go out there and throw a ton of offers out there. So there's a ton of kids that are on the list right now.
Yes, there is. And again, like we've mentioned before, I think everybody mentioned it, USC has to bounce back in 2021 with their recruiting class. And if you're going to do that, this is the guy to do it. This is the guy to get it done.
All right. We'll probably end it right there. I was just going to look up the offers. Yeah, there's a ton of offers, obviously. Okay. Very good. All right. What a difference a year makes for USC at the quarterback position. It means that JT Daniels, once the future the franchise, the face of the franchise, the kid who left high school early to take over the program and be handed the job and winning the job as a true freshman, now gives way to Keaton Slovis, who nobody knew his name outside of hardcore USC football fans this time last August. And now he's coming off a 30 touchdown season. So the USC quarterback position, mighty interesting heading to 2020. We got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles to break down USC at quarterback with the Trojans hitting the practice field on March 24th. So it starts right there, Matt, with Keaton Slovis coming off an exceptional season. Sure, he had some growing pains. He had the 3-interception game on the road at BYU, but considering the circumstances of him just being thrown out there, obviously he got his work in, his reps in, but very few with the first team because of his spot on the roster on the depth chart. And he pulls through with 72% completion percentage, 3,500 yards, 30 TDs against those 9 picks. So he seems to be pretty firmly entrenched as the starter.
Yes, he does. And the thing about it too right now for him is he'll have he had a full spring to work with these guys. As everyone knows, last spring, he was the name that jumped out to the coaching staff, to Graham Harrell and to Clay Helton. He looked very impressive, very poised as a freshman, and he didn't play like a 3-star, even though he was a 3-star recruit. But coming into the season, was thrown into the fire for an injured JT Daniels, and from there, I guess everything wrote itself. Everything spoke for itself. How the way he's played. You mentioned it, Mark. The passing, the passing stats that he's had: 30 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he got better as the season went. It wasn't like he stayed dormant or anything. He got better as the season went, and he spread the ball around very well. He fit the air raid offense very, very well, to the point now where everyone's looking at it and it's like, this is our guy. This is the guy now.
Quarterbacks are sometimes measured by 300-yard passing games. Keaton Slovis had 4 400-yard passing games plus a 515 outing against UCLA and 4 touchdowns, and really had a really good game against one of the better defenses in the nation in Iowa in the bowl game. Unfortunately, the Hawkeyes just grinded that thing out on offense in the second half, and he didn't get his hands on the ball as much as he needed to keep them in the ball game, and obviously was injured then at some point in the ball game, and that really unraveled what was a competitive game. But he should be good to go, and he's okay, correct?
Yes, it was. I think it was nothing more than just a sprain. It wasn't anything that I had to have surgery for or anything. They took him out because A, he wasn't able to return, and B, although it's a bowl game, you really don't want to risk his long-term health. But other than that, outside of that, nothing. It was nothing severe. He'll be able to practice in the spring. He'll be good to go for spring ball.
So I mentioned JT Daniels off the top, certainly a highly decorated quarterback coming out of high school, and much was made of his preparation to gain the starting job in 2018, as he did coming out of high school. He could have been playing high school football for another year. Instead, he's quarterbacking at USC during a difficult season, but still taking his knocks and being able to come back from it. So now he suddenly finds himself in a place where he's trying to put himself in position to battle for a job. And of course, you're only one play away from possibly getting into the game. But after 14 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in 2018, only threw 34 passes last year. So JT Daniels, as we talked about before we started to record, not even going to be able to give it a go this spring.
Yeah, he's still recovering from ACL and meniscus surgery. He won't be competing at spring. I know a lot of people are talking about, well, we got a quarterback battle in the spring, and he's not going to be able to even give it a go in the spring. So if anything, maybe fall camp is when we'll see the two maybe split reps. But it, I believe everybody's been talking about, well, once JT comes back, he's going to be the starter. I don't think so. I don't see that happening because one, Slovis had a full season and looked very impressive through the season. And two, you got to question if JT is even going to be really ready by the time the team steps on the field to face Alabama. I mean, yeah, they'll see what goes on in the fall, but they're not going to really rush JT back unless he looks really ready and unless he outperforms Keaton Slovis. Other than that, really for Slovis, this is his opportunity to just improve and grow with the unit that he's going to have. This is an opportunity for him to just improve. He don't have to look over his shoulder. I know he's going to have two quarterbacks as of now. That's going to be, how can I put it? That's going to be quote unquote competing. But if we know anything about Clay Helton, he don't use spring football as competitions or anything, although he says he really uses it as time to develop and to get better and to correct. So I think that's really what we're going to see with Slovis, is just to see how he gets better and how he grows as a player with without having to really look over his shoulder per se.
Matt Fink in late September, of course, was the quarterback who came off the deck against Utah and was able to save that game against the best team in the division, which gave USC at the moment the control of the Pac-12 South. 21 of 30, 351 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Utes defense that was arguably the best in the Pac-12. But obviously the rest of his season up and down, lightly regarded, had a 3-interception game against Washington. He's not necessarily going to be able to be a serious candidate for the starting job. And Matt Fink might be a guy that's looking elsewhere. Maybe he goes to a group of 5 school and becomes a starting quarterback.
Yeah. So as of now, he hasn't entered the transfer portal. I mean, that could change after we record. But he hasn't entered the transfer portal from what I can take a crack at. Probably he'll wait to see what his position is come he'll see what his position is come after spring ball, and if something comes up after spring ball where he's not in the position where he hopes to be, then maybe he'll look to transfer, because after that time he'll be a grad transfer. He can play right away. He can slide in at fall camp and start somewhere, as you mentioned. But another name that also has come up as of recent is the Vanderbilt grad transfer Mo Hassan, who just transferred into USC from Vanderbilt. Don't know how much of a serious threat you would be. I haven't really seen him play. Don't really know much on him, to be honest with you. But he recently transferred in, so it helps quarterback threat, but it helps quarterback depth for the Trojans. In the event if Matt Fink does indeed decide he wants to transfer, if he doesn't, then you have 4 quarterbacks on the roster that will help out. But right now, as far as with Fink, he's expected to be at spring camp. I think he'll go through spring camp, and then afterwards we'll see what happens after that.
Hassan had some injury issues himself, most notably a concussion issue at the end of last season that ended his campaign in 2019. But most notably, when Missouri was ranked at the time, Hassan came off the bench to lead an upset of Missouri, completed 7 of 11 passes for 120 yards and a touchdown in Vandy's only SEC win that he contributed to right there.